Let's talk about certainty. Because whether we admit it or not, every single one of us is chasing it. We want to know that tomorrow is going to be okay. That the bills will get paid. That the people we love won't walk away. That we can wake up and the world will make sense. This isn't weakness. It's wired into us. It's one of the most fundamental psychological needs. We all have the need for certainty. But here's the tricky part. Certainty is a paradox. The more we cling to it, the less alive we actually feel. Think about it, Iggy, when everything becomes predictable, life loses its spark. Routine can become a cage. Security can turn into stagnation. And yet, if we don't have enough of it, if life feels like pure chaos, we go into survival mode, we become anxious, reactive, overwhelmed. That's the fine line we're all walking. Too little certainty and we panic. Too much certainty and we decay. Certainty shows up in the small things. You have a favorite chair, a preferred side of the bed, a certain way you make your coffee. You might say, I just like things this way. But what's really going on is that your brain is constantly scanning for patterns, ways to feel safe. It wants to know what's next because uncertainty equals danger in the survival mind. That's the same mind that's been evolving for millions of years to keep us from being eaten, rejected, or abandoned. But we don't live in caves anymore. We live in a world of rapid change. In fact, one of the greatest skills you can develop in today's world isn't just managing certainty, but becoming comfortable with uncertainty. C, the quality of your life often depends on how much uncertainty you can handle and still move forward with faith. Because certainty, true certainty, isn't found in your circumstances. It's built inside you. You can lose your job, your relationship can fall apart, your business can collapse. And if your sense of certainty is tied to those external things, you'll crumble with them. But when your certainty comes from within, when it's based on your own resourcefulness, your own identity, your connection to something bigger than yourself, then no matter what falls apart around you, you stay grounded. So how do you create that internal certainty? You start by deciding what you're going to believe about life, about yourself, and about what's possible, no matter what shows up. That's not delusion. That's discipline. That's the power of intentional focus. Because the truth is, your brain is always looking for evidence to support your beliefs. If you believe life is hard, your brain will filter in proof of that all day long. If you believe you can handle anything that comes your way, guess what? You start acting like it. You begin showing up differently. Certainty also influences the quality of your relationships. If you need someone to behave a certain way to feel secure, then your love becomes conditional. You start controlling instead of connecting. But if your certainty comes from knowing your worth, knowing what you bring to the table, knowing your standards, you stop begging for crumbs. You start attracting people who meet you with the same emotional strength. Your energy shifts and your world shifts with it. And I'll tell you this, it's okay to want comfort. It's okay to want a level of stability. But don't confuse comfort with growth. Don't trade your calling for a couch. Don't stay in a relationship, a job, or a version of yourself because it's familiar. That kind of certainty will cost you your potential. And one day you'll look back, not angry, not bitter, but empty, wondering what could have been if you had just leaned into the unknown. You want to live an extraordinary life. Then build certainty not in the known, but in yourself, in your creator, in your character, in your ability to adapt, to rise, to change the game when the game changes on you. Because life will throw curveballs. That's not a possibility. It's a promise. And when it does, you want to be the kind of person who doesn't flinch. The kind of person who stands up, looks uncertain in the face and says, let's go. You were never meant to find your power in comfort. You were meant to find your power in courage. So don't just chase certainty, become it. I bet the world doesn't need more people playing it safe. It needs more people who are certain enough to bet on themselves, even when the outcome isn't guaranteed. Let's talk about the second core need that shapes your life, uncertainty. That might sound strange after we just explored how deeply we crave certainty, but that's the complexity of human psychology. We don't just want stability, we also crave variety. We need surprise, we need adventure. Without uncertainty, we feel stuck, trapped, even lifeless. Life becomes a script we already know the ending to, and eventually that becomes unbearable. Think about it. Why do people travel? Why do they seek out new music, new food, new friendships, new challenges? Why are we drawn to sports, movies, books, games? It's because they bring unpredictability. They jolt us out of routine. They give our brain the sense of stimulation and discovery that it hungers for. That's uncertainty. And it's not just a preference, it's a psychological requirement. It's wired into us right alongside certainty. But here's the contradiction. Most people fear uncertainty. They say they want change, but they cling to what's familiar. They want passion, but they avoid risk. They want excitement, but they play it safe. Why? Because uncertainty means you can't control the outcome. You might fail. You might get rejected. You might look foolish. And the ego doesn't like that. The ego says, let's just stay where it's predictable, even if it's painful. But here's the true thing. The quality of your life is directly tied to how much uncertainty you're willing to embrace. Because nothing new comes from certainty, no transformation, no breakthrough, no growth happens in your comfort zone. It happens when you step into the unknown, when you raise your hand in the meeting, when you start the business, when you say yes to love again after heartbreak, when you speak the truth instead of staying silent. These are moments of risk, and therefore moments of power. Uncertainty is the birthplace of faith. It's where courage is forged. It's where you discover who you really are. Not just who you are when everything's going your way, but who you are when things are unclear, unstable, and unpredictable. That's when character shows up. That's when resilience is born. That's when life becomes electric. So the real challenge is this: can you condition yourself to not just tolerate uncertainty, but you enjoyed it? Can you train your nervous system to associate uncertainty with opportunity rather than fear? Because if you can, you become unstoppable. You stop needing the world to be a certain way for you to feel good. You stop waiting for perfect conditions. You stop holding your breath until everything feels safe. And instead, you start living. Some of the most successful, fulfilled people on this planet have learned to dance with uncertainty. They've made peace with the unknown. In fact, many of them seek it out. They look for edges, for places where things might fall apart, because that's also where things might come together in a way they never imagined. It's that willingness to lean into discomfort that separates the average life from the extraordinary one. So how do you build this muscle? Start small. Say yes to something today that stretches you. Have a conversation you've been avoiding. Try something new without needing to master it. Let go of needing to control every detail of your schedule, your relationship, your image. Instead, ask yourself, what if I trusted the process? What if I believed something greater was unfolding, even if I couldn't see it yet? The more uncertainty you can embrace, the more freedom you experience. Because fear loses its grip when you stop needing guarantees. You become fluid. You become creative. You respond rather than react. That's not recklessness. That's presence. That's power. Stop asking for the path to be easy. Ask for the strength to walk it, even when you can't see the whole map. Because every great story, your story, depends on moments of uncertainty. Don't run from them. Run you into them. That's where your life expands. Why? If you want to feel fully alive, stop clinging to known, lean into the unknown. Known. Because the life you're craving is on the other side of the risk you're avoiding. Let's dive into the third psychological need that drives human behavior, the need for significance. This one runs deep. We all want to matter. We all want to feel like we count, that we're important, that our life has weight. It's not about ego in the shallow sense. It's about identity. It's about meaning. When a person doesn't feel significant, they'll do just about anything to get that feeling, even if it's destructive. From a young age, we start asking, do I measure up? Am I seen? Am I respected? And depending on the answers we get from our environment, our parents, our friends, society, we begin building the story of who we are. We either construct a healthy sense of self-worth, or we start chasing external validation to fill a void. And here's the thing: if someone can't find a healthy path to significance, they will find an unhealthy one. That's how you get arrogance. That's how you get violence. That's how you get people who dominate others, not out of strength, but out of fear they'll be invisible if they don't. So much of the dysfunction we see in the world, broken relationships, toxic leadership, crime, even addiction, traces back to this desperate hunger to feel like I matter. If you don't believe that, just look at how people behave on social media. So much of it is driven by a need to be noticed, to be recognized, to be affirmed. And if the likes don't come in, if the applause fades, they crash, because their sense of significance was built on something fragile, something they can't control. But here's the shift I want you to make today. Significance doesn't have to come from outside. In fact, you shouldn't If you base your value on what others think of you, you've given away the most powerful thing you own: your identity. You've outsourced your worth. True significance starts when you decide what matters most in your life, and then live in alignment with that. It's not about being more important than someone else. It's about being fully and authentically you, and knowing that alone is enough. Now, we all pursue significance in different ways. For some, it's through achievement. For others, it's through contribution. For some, it's through being unique, different, rebellious. And for others, it's about being part of something bigger than themselves. None of these are wrong. It's the intention behind them that matters. Are you trying to elevate yourself at the expense of others? Or are you rising so you can lift others too? Let me be clear, the need for significance is not something to be ashamed of. It's part of your human wiring. But you've got to master it or it will master you. If you're constantly trying to prove yourself, you'll live in anxiety. If you're always seeking approval, you'll be easy to manipulate. But if you can ground your sense of worth in your values, your growth, your integrity, no one can take that from you. And here's what's beautiful. When you feel significant within, you stop chasing it without. You stop needing to win every argument. You stop trying to impress people who don't even care about you. You stop overworking just to feel enough. Instead, you show up in the world with quiet confidence. You speak with clarity, you listen with humility, you lead with compassion. Because you're no longer trying to get something. You're coming from a place of already having it. So how do you build this kind of unshakable significance? You start by being honest with yourself. Where have you been chasing significance in shallow ways? What would it look like to ground it in something deeper? Maybe it's your spiritual beliefs. Maybe it's your mission. Maybe it's your role as a parent, a leader, a creator. Whatever it is, anchor yourself there. And from that place, act boldly, serve generously, speak truthfully, live fully. Because at the end of the day, the question isn't, wham, I important. It's what am I doing with the importance I've already been given? That's where purpose is born. That's where fulfillment lives. Don't spend your life trying to prove that you matter. Live in a way that proves your life is a gift. And then give it fully,